welcome back to 60-Second Jeep Wisdom. Today's topic is armor for our Jeeps. We just returned from a trip out in Colorado, ran a fantastic trail called Wheeler Lake that was rated a 7 out of 10. And it gave the armor we've got on the JL a pretty good test. So I want to share that with you guys. I want to show you how we've been using our armor. We'll talk about the parts of the JL that I think you should armor if you're going to wheel your Jeep for sure. And we'll see how my armor held up during the abuse we just gave us. So let's jump in. Here's a shot of my stock Rubicon JL. From the factory, it came with a front skid plate, some decent rock sliders, as well as some factory steel skids. That didn't cover much, and I was looking for a lot more protection on my build. In this shot, you can see some of the armor I'm running on my build. And also, let's talk about some of the areas prone to damage when running a four-door Wrangler in the off-road environment. I'm going to freeze the frame right here so we can get a look underneath the JL. Because of the length of its wheelbase, you're prone to drag on the gas tank skid just past midship, on the outer rock rail about here, and on that low-hanging rear control arm. Now, moving to the front of the JL, one of the areas you most certainly want to cover and reinforce is the front axle diff cover, possibly the front axle disconnect, the front lower control arm bracket, and in my case, protection for the electronic sway bar disconnect. At the back of the JL, the two places that concern me the most are the lower rear diff, as well as coming in contact with the rear bumper. The stock rear bumper flexes just enough to be driven up into the bodywork, which could cause potential damage. And on the sides of our Jeep, we need solid rocker protection. Something that'll keep us off the rocks and no body damage. Frame mounted here is a must. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we recently ran Wheeler Lake Trail. Wheeler Lake was rated 7 out of 10 and threw us some really great obstacles. Some of them were submerged. Keep in mind as you watch this footage that I'm on 37s with a 3.5-inch lift, which will give you an idea of my clearances. At the end of this, we'll take a look at how my armor held up, what my contact points were. Now it's time to hit the trail and put this armor to the test. Now let's take a look at where we made contact with the granite. This is the front bumper skid, steering stabilizer mount on the tie rod, front differential cover, no doubt from the submerged boulders we found. This is my front driver's side lower control arm. Fuel tank about halfway back on the outside. Just grazed the Rockside Engineering step sliders a couple of times. But this is where we really took the big hits, the low-hanging rear lower control arms. And the Artec brackets did a great job supporting this. This is the rear differential cover. Rear factory tow hook, landed on that a couple of times, as well as my newly installed Rockside Engineering rear hitch slider. And here's a quick overview of all the pieces, as well as my thoughts on why I chose them. Okay, let's start with the axles. I knew I would be replacing the stock diff covers, and for this I chose AEV. I like these because they feature a large fill and inspection port, an axle-specific fuel level port, as well as being made in the US of nodular iron. Thankfully, we have a lot of great choices when it comes to armoring the differentials on our Jeeps. Some will even choose to run a glide plate on both axles. For me, I'm trying to hit that sweet spot between protection and keeping the weight low. Next up is full underbelly protection. I'm running Artec Industries JL belly pan, fabbed at a 1/4 inch 661 aluminum.
I like that it features a completely smooth bottom. They provide an additional cross-member brace, as well as allowing me to gain 3/4 of an inch of ground clearance on the gas tank. That is super helpful. This system adds only an additional 15 pounds over my stock OEM steel skids. For rocker protection, I'm running Rockslide Engineering's Gen 3 step sliders. These are frame mounted and are strong enough to carry the entire weight of the Jeep against any obstacle. I love the fact that they're made in the USA. And here's the part that I think is really crucial for off-road armor. Do something to upgrade your lower control arm brackets. They're prone to trail damage and are easily bent and deformed. I used Artex lower control arm skids because I liked how they tied in both the lower control arm bolt with the shock bolt, making that whole area much stronger. This is Rockslide Engineering's rear hitch slider. It attaches easily and quickly to the rear hitch receiver. I'm running this for 2 reasons. It provides excellent protection to the rear bumper, providing a skid coming off the larger obstacles along with that factory tow hook. And it also provides a great step up, giving me access to my roof rack. It's fabbed out of 3/16 steel, so it can take a hit, and it's made in the USA. This is Metal Cloak's front axle disconnect skid. I added this more for peace of mind, as I felt I'm not likely to contact this part of the axle on the rocks, but if I did, causing damage there would cause me real problems. It's more of a peace of mind move. You may have noticed I don't run lower control arm skids. This is not a place I'll typically make contact, as my front wheels are up on the obstacles mostly. I do, however, from time to time make contact about halfway down the front lower control arms. Lastly, let's talk about something I think is often overlooked when we think about armor, and that's wheel offset. Having our wheels sticking out a little bit past our fender flares really does act like armor in the fact that it keeps the bodywork off of the tight obstacles on the trail. Don't forget this aspect when you do your build. For even more in-depth reviews on some of the mods we just described here, please check our playlist. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and please consider subscribing, as we would appreciate your support. Until next time, stay safe and be well.